Hey everybody, I'm live. It's John Hope Bryant with my dear friend. I love the joke that he's a brother from another mother because he's just such an authentic human being. But you would know him, the world would know him as the Crown Prince of Norway, Haakon Magnus. Now, this funny story here. When I first met him, I was in Norway, I think it was. We were getting a tour of the palace, and I got a chance to meet his father, the king, great man. And I called him the Great Haakon, as I'd like to say with my friends. And Pekka Himonen, Professor Pekka Himonen, who's a dear friend of ours and co-founder. Hey, JL, I'm wearing your bracelets, by the way. A young entrepreneur, JL Priester, who's 16 years old, one of our success stories. Hey, Joyce Baxter signing in. I see you guys at the beginning, you sign in. Okay, so I said the Great Haakon, and Pekka Himonen said, you can't call him the Great Haakon, it means nothing. I'm not running for president, Sergio Award, John Hope Bryant for 2020, I'm not doing it. And he's got me beat, by the way. He doesn't have to run for anything. He's going to be king, period. So he's cool. He's much cooler. Hey, Derek Smart. Pekka Himonen said, you can't call him the Great Haakon because that's his name. He was born Haakon the Great. So I've had to give him another title, and that title is brother. He's just a good guy. So we're here in New York for a Global Dignity Board meeting, where we're the co-founders from 11 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, and Haakon, the Crown Prince, has attended all the meetings. He's chaired a lot of the meetings. He's pushed a lot of the agenda. He's traveled around the world for this movement. We are now 70 countries strong and making a difference. And we talked about, hey, Sonia Bell signing in, and Lamont Atwood, hello, my friend from Bay Area. We talked about some important things today. First of all, how we met. Then we'll get into the real meat of this topic. We met in Switzerland.
Yes.
And we were talking about what was sort of right in the world, what needs to be done. And I walked up to him in a restaurant later that evening, and he didn't know me from a hole in the wall. And I just said, man, you got a good spirit. You're good people. And his security, I'm sure, wanted to attack me, but he just told everybody to chill. We ended up having a great conversation.
That was necessary.
No, that wasn't necessary. But they didn't know. Who's his brother? Is he going to attack our prince? And anyway, we had a great conversation, and he was as cool then as he is now, and we become very close. And I trust him with my life, my reputation, my work, and certainly with my time. And so we have this bond through Global Dignity. They love you. And I wanted to use this opportunity with work that we're doing to have a broader conversation about what really matters in the world. And you get a chance to talk to a member of the royal family, the Crown Prince of Norway, the future king of one of the most relevant countries in the world. And you get to ask questions. Hey, Rakita, how you doing? My cousin. Hey, Tanya McGriff from LA. So first of all, I want you guys to give him some love. Show him that you appreciate him. So you guys are signing on. Give him some love. Let him know that he's in a friendly environment. Come on now. Don't embarrass me. Come on. Give him some love here. Come on. That's all I can get is 2 hearts. That's all we can get is 2 hearts. Royalty rock, Shelly Mills says. Joyce. Okay, there we go. Thank you guys for giving him some love. JL is giving you some hearts. There we go. Watching from Nigeria. Khalib says, we were just talking about we needed some more representations from Africa at our meeting. We need more people from Africa on our board and more women. Hey, Anthony. All right, so I want the Crown Prince to talk about, hey, Joyce, hey, Antoinette, a story that's very, Glenda says, peace, Prince, very personal to him. About his great-grandfather in World War II. And the broader context is what are you willing to die for? That Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, if you don't know what you're willing to die for, you aren't fit to live. And, what does that statement mean to you, Haakon? By the way, he's the Crown Prince. That's the way he should be accorded, but this is for the purpose of this call, this discussion, and what he prefers. I'm just going to call him Haakon for the moment. By the way, he's the only guy I know who only has one name. He only legally has one name. It's just Haakon. Isn't that cool? Just Haakon. Like no middle, last, nothing. It's just Haakon. It's cool. A business card just says Haakon on it. That means you're a bad brother. All right. So what does the statement mean to you, if you don't know what you're willing to die for, you aren't fit to live?
Well, I think there's many things to say about that, but obviously he has a really good point, I think, when pointing out that when we think about our values, do they really matter to us? Like, is how you live your life the foundation for all your decisions? What are they, and how important are they to you? And are you willing to die for them? What are you in fact willing to die for? What's so important to you that you're willing to die for? So people would answer, I would, maybe their children, their family, obviously.
Yes, it's very natural.
That's a natural answer. Yeah. And that's, of course, important and valid. But there's also other things that are so important that we would be willing to stand up for them in a very serious way. And that sort of tells us a little bit about what's the most important to us, and maybe that could help us also to focus our lives and our priorities. So if there's this balance between life and death that way, that you could actually have a more fulfilled life. If you think about what is so important that you would be willing to sacrifice, make the ultimate sacrifice for it.
Something more important than just yourself.
Yes, exactly. And that goes back to, happiness, to being this feeling of worthiness. All of that
inner joy.
Is part of that same topic, because one of the things, we know this from research, that one of the things that makes us happy is having a larger goal, something that's bigger than yourself,
right?
Some deeper meaning,
right? Purpose.
And purpose, exactly. And having that deep feeling of purpose, and that you're actually doing something that's important, that's bigger than yourself.
Right.
I think that's something that's very sort of deeply embedded in us, that if we're able to live our lives that way, that actually we feel better about ourselves, and it's something that goes back to happiness and the feeling of value.
So you got some personal experience with this in your family. I mean, people don't realize that the royalty is not. I mean, the title is just ceremonial in some ways, but it's really about the legacy of your life and what people gave in service to others. At least that was the positive part of those who lived a life of public service or who were born into it. Your great-grandfather had a not very romantic but very noble place in history, and really in many ways sacrificed himself or risked that during World War II with the Nazis. Can you tell that story a little bit? Your great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather, yes, this is a long time ago, so 1940.
Melvin says truth, Prince, so they're agreeing with you.
The Nazi forces were invading Norway, and the government had to flee, and my great-grandfather also moved to this place called Elverum, outside of a few hours drive from the capital. And there the Minister Breuer, who was the top diplomat for the Nazis in Norway, asked for a meeting. And he wanted a one-on-one meeting with the king. So
your great-grandfather.
My great-grandfather.
So keep in mind, everybody, the Nazis were marching into countries and nicely, but really not so nicely, saying either you give us the country or we're going to kill everybody here and make life really miserable so you can go easily and basically be complicit in this, or you can go not so easily and we're going to take it over anyway. And some countries just folded. Many countries folded and just threw their hands up and said, fine. Some countries tried to appease the Nazis. And now you're about to hear a different kind of story.
Well, these were difficult times with difficult decisions.
Yeah.
So he didn't. I don't think he really wanted to go to the meeting because it was obviously a negotiation that should be with the government because Norway is a democracy, right? So he's not the one that is the representative of the right representative in those types of negotiations.
Right.
But Mr. Breuer wanted him to come, and only him, to the meeting, so they accepted that, and he went. And then the diplomat said that he would like Mr. Quisling, who was the nationalist leader in Norway, to become prime minister, who was sympathetic to the Nazis.
Right.
They wanted him to become prime minister, and they wanted my great-grandfather to accept and to endorse that he became the prime minister. So what happened was that my great-grandfather said that this is something I need to consult the government on. It's their decision. And he left, and then he said that he had this discussion with the government, and he put forward that if they were to accept this proposal, he would have to step down as monarch. He couldn't then continue in his position.
So to be clear, if the government of Norway accepted the Nazi proposal as it was presented, then the king, his great-grandfather, would abdicate the throne, would say, I'm no longer king.
Exactly,
right.
Yeah. And the government agreed with him and said no to the proposal, and because of that, they had to leave the country.
The Norwegian government, the leaders had to flee the country.
That's right, yes. That became an important part of Norwegian history, and also an important story for the resistance in Norway. The people that stood up and said that the Nazi way of seeing the world, the values that underpin that movement, is something we have to stand up against.
Right.
And that created actually very efficient resistance in many parts of the country. And a lot of heroes were doing work to make it difficult for the Nazis to continue with
almost quietly subverting them within the country. Norwegians tried quietly subverting the Nazis while they're in the country, not just giving in and throwing their hands up and letting them do as they like.
Yes, there were all these types of ways that they had these paper clips, for instance, in their jackets, which was like a symbol. There's all these codes and secret symbols, right, that they were using.
Wow.
Which was difficult to clamp down on because they seemed very
innocuous, innocent,
exactly, like nothing. But people knew what they meant.
Yes.
So it sort of spread. So there were all these things going on, and real resistance as well. Like they were making sure that there was this heavy water plant that Norwegians trained in England, in Britain, came over and actually blew up the factory, so that because this was early days of nuclear weapons, right? And this was one of the components that was really important. So there's stories like that as well.
People said, great info, hello from Michigan. I've been seeing a lot of comments of people who are, wow, wonderful, Sharon Hall. So a lot of history people didn't know about Norway. They know today Norway is this wealthy country and all this kind of stuff, but they don't know that it actually was a poor country 100 years ago. And that's true. And struggled.
And a lot of Norwegians moved to the United States from 1830 to 1930, around 400,000 Norwegians actually moved to the United States, and that's why so many people in the U.S. and in America has Norwegian heritage.
Yeah, and particularly in the areas like Minnesota.
The Midwest.
The Midwest,
but across the country.
Yeah, folks who like cold weather. My white friends, they like cold weather. They're probably Norwegian. So we don't want to romanticize this because people died.
It was tough times.
It was tough times. People died resisting the Nazis. But I think the question again becomes, if you don't know what you're willing to die for, you aren't fit to live. And that was a Dr. King quote. That Dr. King also said, that you can't kill me, but I can freely give my life. So the question is not what you die for, but why? But what are you willing to give your life for? And in many ways, and your time for, like what we're doing with Global Dignity, is something that is not involving a government, it's not involving public policy, it's not involving commerce or free enterprise or capitalism, but it's something we give our lives, our time to, because we think that it's important to create a new language in the world, that something that we all as brothers and sisters can share it. You're saying something that Desmond Tutu said that you admired, right? What was that phrase or that saying?
Well, what he said is that we're all God's children. If we only understood that, there wouldn't be violence in the world. There wouldn't be poverty in the world, because if we really truly understood what that means, is that we're all brothers and sisters,
yes.
And you wouldn't drop a bomb on your brother and you wouldn't let your sister starve. So we're all part of the same family.
I love that. So before we go, I'll see if you guys have any questions for the Crown Prince. You can ask questions now. Said Mr. Bryant, love what you're doing for us and the new generation. Thank you, Tom. We were just talking about that we were a little concerned that, you know, the Nelson Mandelas of the world, the Mother Teresas of the world, the Michael Collins in Ireland, a lot of the heroes and sheroes throughout Europe, in Africa, in Asia, and Latin America. Of course, Dr. King is an easy one to cite, Andrew Young. Where's that spirit? You know, where's that spirit of living for something? Sabrina's grace is so true. That spirit of living for something larger and more important than yourself. Zena Knox says, yes, indeed, we're all God's children. Edwin says the United States has a lot to learn from Norway. Amen. The world has a lot to learn from Norway. Norway has built a really clean economy. A lot of the cars you see on the street in Norway are electric cars. I think you guys have some kind of motivation or incentive for people to drive electric cars in Norway?
Yes. Well, there's a tax break. Like you don't pay as much for an electrical car as you do for a combustion engine.
American policymakers, hello, tax breaks for those who actually are middle class, and so get the message. So another wonderful Norwegian model. So in other words, the wealthy don't need these breaks. Those who are in the working class and the middle class need breaks because those are the ones that are fueling the economy. So what are some of the other interesting attributes of Norway? Like, I know you guys are a big donor in the world to places that, like, developing countries. Why do you guys give so much to other parts of the world?
We're a small country, and it's, I think, important to us that we're part of the world, and we try to take that seriously. So we support the UN a lot, because the UN gives some type of structure to the world. And you and
your wife Meta are also honorary ambassadors for the UN. It's the last time I checked, right? Meta also.
She works a lot with UN AIDS,
right,
on HIV/AIDS issues, and also women's health issues. And I work with the United Nations Development Program a little bit, try to support. And also, I think it's recognition that we're all in the same boat in the world, that it's about all of us, and we should all try to do our part to alleviate poverty. The world has set this goal. By 2030, we want to alleviate the world from extreme poverty.
Right.
We want to eradicate it completely.
Right.
There's no real reason why anyone should be living on less than $1 a day. There's no reason why anyone should be doing that in the world. No real reason. And we have been very successful at reducing it. These last 20 years, we've reduced it with much more than half.
Yeah.
So, which is fantastic, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah. By the way, one young lady just said, I'm still in awe that a prince will take time out to give such great advice as Iris McNair. So people appreciate. By the way, he's very normal, everybody. And one thing I keep saying is that it's so abnormal that he's so normal, but he's just really a cool guy. You can just ignore the security and all that stuff, the fact that he only has one name. But he's just a really great guy. He's a great human being, and that's why I call him my brother. And he's a great spokesman for Norway and a great ambassador for the best attributes of this country as a role model for other countries, that you can do well and do good. You can do well by doing good. When I'm in Norway, I don't see poor people. I don't. I'm sure
we have poverty in Norway as well.
You do. Okay.
We do.
But there's a great deal of compassion and thoughtfulness in the way in which you address the poverty in Norway, even the way you address criminals in Norway. I mean, there were some very violent. There was a horrible massacre in Norway a few years ago, and I was stunned by how the country responded to, yes, the victims and the pain, but also to the perpetrator. Can you talk a little bit about that? How the country responded?
Well, I think it was two things happened. Obviously, it was really important to after
Shannon Campbell and Shannon.
After the situation was neutralized and he was caught and it was it was over. I think it was two things that was important. One was obviously to try as best as we could to support those that had lost their loved ones.
Sure.
And try to help that healing process as quickly as much as we could. So that was sort of priority number one. But the second was societal, like us as a society. To look at what are the underpinning values that we want to build our society on, and what should not be changed or because of this event. We should try to focus and create even a stronger foundation for these values. So democracy,
openness, kindness.
Yes.
You didn't want it to change the heart of Norway and the Norwegian peoples.
Yes, exactly. So that was part, I think, of how can we build an even stronger society that hopefully will prevent that this will ever happen again.
So you guys doubled down on love, really. You doubled down on love.
Yes. Well, that's, I don't know.
Well, that's my interpretation.
Everyone would agree on that in Norway, but love is a word we don't use all that much. But yes, it's something we talked about those days. And
love's not, the word love's not used a lot in Norway?
No.
I love you, man. I love you, Norway.
Exactly.
I'm going to import a new word.
Occasion.
Okay. That's pretty interesting. It's a very loving country. Justin Ford said that was a powerful story. Thank you, John, for connecting us with Prince Haakon. And thank you, Prince Haakon, for sharing your story and time with us. It's greatly appreciated. So, you guys even tried to rehabilitate the guy who did this mass shooting, as I recall. Did I get that right?
No, I don't know if...
Yeah,
it's basically been in the legal system. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether... It's important that we treat everyone according to our standards.
Right. So I guess
I don't know enough about that. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would have gotten much harsher treatment. I guess what I'm saying, if he was in the United States, he might have been put to the death penalty. And as I recall, there was a standard of decency that you guys decided was in place. It had to do not so much about him, but how you guys see yourselves. And he had to pay a price, but you weren't trying to make a point.
Well, we don't have the death penalty in Norway. That's not part of our legal system.
Wow. And you don't have as I think, you don't really have a weapons problem in Norway, do you? What, you know what a gun is?
Yes.
They got so few guns, I got to explain to them what a gun is. You guys don't have a problem with a lot of guns and weapons in Norway.
Well, people hunt and shoot a lot.
Well, that's out in the
Yeah.
I mean, as far as weaponized crimes with.
Right. You're talking about homicide.
Yes.
Those
Homicides
types of,
and.
well, it's not depending on
crimes.
which year you're looking at. I mean, there are some years like the one we were just talking about now, which
Right.
is a very
But that was an incident.
an incident, but obviously it really changes the statistics for that year.
Right.
But in general, it's we're quite good in those statistics.
Pretty peaceful place.
Fairly peaceful, yes, and safe.
You know, one of the places I go to every year, where I always look forward to it, one of my favorite places in the world is Norway. I mean, everybody from the people at the immigration desk all the way through the airport to in the city. It's just I mean, no place is perfect, but it really is a general sense of authenticity, of love, of care. People will try to help you, and I didn't feel race when I was there either. I don't typically see the world through that lens anyway, but I certainly didn't. Other than people were curious about my ethnicity and wanting to learn, certainly no racial tension.
I'm glad you had a good experience in Norway.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah. Because I surely would have come back and told you. Yeah. So when I first came into Norway, I got stuck at the border at the passport control. They said, "Well, so why are you here in Norway?" "Oh, I'm here on business." "Okay, what kind of business?" "I'm here to see the Crown Prince." "Excuse me?" "I'm here to see the Crown Prince." "Where are you staying at?" "Oh, I'm staying at the Crown Prince's house." "You're staying at the Crown Prince's house. You here to see the Crown Prince?" "Yeah." "Can you please come back here and talk to us some more?" So I ended up having a conversation, and it didn't seem too bad. That story didn't wash very well, but of course it was true. And so I want you guys to know a guy that is Norway a colorful place, John Moore says. And Zena says, "I must visit Norway. We're increasing tourism. Is Norway a colorful place?" It depends on the time of year, right?
Yeah, it goes through these different phases. Right now, it's quite dark because it's light in the fall.
Oh, okay, you gotta tell them about this.
Comes back.
Yeah, tell them about this. So, how many months of the year is it basically dark?
Well, it depends where in the country. If you go way up north, now it's dark. Like you don't have sun even during the daytime. It's completely. It might be twilight, you know.
Okay.
But if you go really far up to an island north of the mainland,
Right.
Then it's not even twilight this time of year.
Right.
So in Oslo, we still have daylight, of course, even now. But there is a difference. There's a lot shorter days since we're so far north.
Right.
And then we get the long days in the spring and the summer, where it gets dark, but it's not completely dark.
I remember at 10 o'clock at night, I looked up and it was still light.
Yeah. At 10 you can have actually, the sun's up in the middle of the sun.
Yeah. So last story from me. I love these stories. Last story from me. I went to Norway once in December, and it was cold. And the lady who picked me up, "Oh, you're such a nice guy, John. We should go scuba diving tomorrow. I'm going scuba diving." You must be out of your mind. I'm not going scuba diving. It's freezing. I've got 3 layers on. I'm freezing. But her skin, she was completely comfortable and not cold, obviously. And she was going to go scuba diving. I guess she had a wetsuit on, but
Let's hope so.
Yeah, let's hope so. Right. So my brothers in the Nordic region are comfortable in colder weathers. I've seen you sailing with out where it was clearly a wintry environment, and of course you love skiing all the time. Your whole family loves to go frolic in the.
Well, all that is about knowing how to put the right clothes on, the right gear.
Yes, he's always
Feel comfortable.
He's always cool looking, by the way. It's always cool gear. So look, if you have any questions about absolutely beautiful country, Justin says. If you have any questions for the Crown Prince, leave them in the box below, and I'll make sure that I get it to his assistant Greta, who is a wonderful human being. I want to give acknowledgement to his wife, Crown Princess Meta, who is a wonderful humanitarian and a leader of her own in the country, and his beautiful family. I want to thank his father and mother, who have been in service all their lives. And one day, the man you see here will be king. So Zena says, the Crown Prince is so humble. Love him. Well, Zena, he's married, so we'll make sure the love stops at a place. But I'll make sure he gets your note. Zena's good people. He is a lovable guy. He is a nice guy. He's a real person, and he has given his life in service for others. Many of you have. She says, "Thank you for your service." Somebody reaching our destiny says that. Many of you. Does a prince need an American wealth manager? Well, hey, Sergio, anything's possible. Many of you have choices. You could change, you could do whatever you want, go wherever you want, change careers. He was born, his name was born, when he was born, Prince Haakon, Crown Prince Haakon, actually Haakon, let me see if I get this right. His Royal Highness Crown Prince Haakon Magnus of Norway. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So the only name is Haakon, but the rest of it is his official title. And because he's the only boy, he will be king. So he didn't get a shot at having another career, so to speak. This is his calling, and I think he's embraced it with humility and with passion and with authenticity. He's made it his own. He's lived his own life while still being honoring his father and the legacy, and serving his country with absolute dignity. And you're going to, I think, hear good things from him in the future. Zena says, "John, you are hilarious. No love interest, just love of his service to humanity." We got you, Zena. I'm just trying to get you in a little trouble. All right, thank you, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this. I've enjoyed doing it. I want to expose you to somebody that I highly admire. Go visit Norway. One name, that's mega smooth. Cornelio Martinez says, Prentice Earl. But he chose to be the best version of himself. So that's pretty cool. All right, well, see, you like him as much as I do. What's racism like in Norway, is Dominique is asking. Prentice says, thank you. As a closing point, is that a question you're comfortable answering? Wish you the best, Prince. Is there racism in Norway? Is it a big problem?
No, I mean, we're a country, a society. There's racism. Yeah. But, we're trying to deal with it. And there's a lot of good people that are doing work that's meaningful and trying to combat racism, to show a different way. I think as a society we're struggling with finding ways of acknowledging that we have so much more in common than what divides us.
Yes.
So that's really important, and that's work we have to do every day.
Yes.
It's not something that you can sort of, done that, finished, that's solved forever. It doesn't work that way. You have to continuously work, and that's part of what we're doing in Global Dignity, by the way.
Yes.
There's so many things that divides us all the time, and so many areas or issues that come up and that's thrown at us from media, from social media, that's sort of divisive and trying to drive us apart. And we need these things, and to be reminded that we have so much more in common than what divides us, our common humanity, and that we're so much alike. So we need to be reminded that from time to time, and any society has to work, I think, on that.
So there's somebody just said that you were a great Norwegian representative, by the way. Norway has a capacity to intervene and hold their European counterparts accountable to stop exploiting Africa and other developing countries. Malcolm, they do their part. You'll see they're a huge donor, huge outsized donor to the country's size and population, to the cause of Africa and other places, and they weigh in politically through the UN and through other sources in very strident ways, and so I think you do a little bit of research, you'll find that they actually do weigh in positively. There are two things I'll leave you with a thought that I'm impressed with that the Crown Prince has done around the issue of racial unification. One, he loves hip hop. and responsible rap. And when I first met him, I was listening to some of his music choices, and you'd be fascinated with the music he listens to, but he knows all the right acts. But he likes responsible rap. Okay, you're getting some laughs there. And he invites a brother to the country once or twice a year, me, and lets me hang out in his house and bring some soul to the country. And we always go out to the schools to talk about the topic of global dignity, and we go in together, me, myself, him, and lots of love there, and Pekka Himanen, and the country chairs for global dignity, sometimes 30 or 40 strong. We go in to make a statement that we're all in this together. We're all brothers and sisters, as Desmond Tutu said. We're all the same in God's sight. And I like him because he always does what's right. The People's Prince, my friend, Crown Prince Haakon of Norway. The rest of your comments, I'll make sure I respond on the plane ride back to Atlanta. And again, any comments that are particularly noteworthy, I'll ask Greta, his assistant, to sign on here to make some words or one of his assistants. Peace and light. Love you much. Go check out Global Dignity at globaldignity.org and volunteer. We have something very exciting coming up next year to celebrate the King legacy. Anything you want to say on the way out?
I thought that was perfect. Well done.
All right. Drop the mic. Bye.